Thank you so much, Megan, and thanks everyone for tuning in for today's CEP Community Live. Again, my name is Gregory LaFortune, one of the dietitians here at the Cognitive Empowerment Program, where I teach classes on nutrition, the mind diet, and how to implement certain brain healthy foods for us to decrease inflammation and extend our cognitive health. And it's really important to go into the intro of the mind diet, just to help us lay some foundations as the new year starts in order for us to really implement some things. And that's what today's presentation is going to be about. Today is called the Mind Diet, one new food, in which I challenge you first educate on the different foods that the Mind Diet talks about, but then also leaves you with challenging you to try to implement at least one new food. And many of us go into the new year with this notion of trying to get everything done all at once. The alphabet is from A to Z, and we're trying to make it from A to Z overnight. And this is a challenge for a lot of us because it tends to overwhelm us when it comes to our health. And we tend to accomplish nothing because we try to bite off too much too quickly. The truth is, we're going to talk about how important it is for you to take a step from A to B in order for you to get to Z at some point. So that's what today is going to be about, the mind diet, one new food at a time. I'm going to talk about what the mind diet is and how we can incorporate it. So again, foundation. This is very key for us to understand that the mind diet is a brain healthy diet that takes the Mediterranean and the DASH diets, fuse them together to promote our brain health. And actually, MIND is an acronym that stands for Mediterranean hyphen dash intervention for neurodegenerative delay. Again, it contains components of the Mediterranean and DASH diets and comes together. Now, just want to understand what these Mediterranean and DASH diets do and what they are. So, with the Mediterranean diet, we have heard of it many times, featuring foods in the Mediterranean region, specifically like Greece, Italy, and a few others as well, incorporating healthy fats like olive oil, nuts and seeds, fatty fish like salmon, sardines, anchovies, with high omega-3 fatty acids in them. It limits our red meat consumption. It puts red wine on there. Red wine is always something I'm a little iffy about promoting just because alcohol in general does not have any brain health benefits, but it is a part of the mind diet due to the fact that grapes, which red wine is made from, contain an antioxidant that's called resveratrol, which can be brain healthy and brain promoting. But I always encourage people, if we're going to choose between the grape versus the red wine, I know naturally if we want to have a good time, we might go for the red wine, but I actually prefer you to go for that red grape instead. Also, too, the Mediterranean diet focuses on healthy grains. So a lot of talk about whole grains and what whole grains can do, having fiber, B vitamins, and a whole host of other things as well. It's high in fruits and vegetables, low in processed foods, and low in added sugars. So again, this is an overview of the Mediterranean diet. Okay. Now, the DASH diet, oh, I'm sorry, the Mediterranean diet also incorporates lifestyle interventions. So it's not only just a nutrition related diet or pattern, but think of it more like a lifestyle. If we can consider the Mediterranean diet, if I can rename it, I'd rename it the Mediterranean lifestyle because it incorporates nutrition, but it also incorporates things like family gatherings, physical activity, mindfulness, sleep, and things like that as well, as you can see here on the base of this pyramid. Okay, so again, that's the Mediterranean diet, one half of the mind diet. Then you have the DASH diet. Okay, the DASH diet is used to lower blood pressure. This is the one that specifically recommends a low sodium intake and higher intake of our fruits and our vegetables that contain nutrients like potassium. Potassium is a mineral known to help mitigate against high blood pressure. It really helps combat the negative effects of high sodium intakes. So that's why we want to include those fruits and vegetables because of that potassium intake. Now, certain people might not be able to have high levels of potassium, specifically those who might have kidney injuries or any type of chronic kidney disease. But of course, conversations like these should be had with your primary doctor and any other practitioner that you're working with to know how you should navigate around some of these things. But the DASH diet is low in sodium, high in fiber, high in fruits and vegetables, less processed, very similar to what the Mediterranean diet promotes. All right. So, very important for us to understand. This MIND diet is a combination between Mediterranean and the DASH. Now, there are these things that are called antioxidants. Okay. Antioxidants are really good for our bodies. And the MIND diet contains foods that are high in antioxidants. Oxidation is a normal process in which every human being experiences. And oxidation is aging. Okay. As we grow older, things oxidize. Our brains get weaker, more prone to sickness and disease. Our bodies, same concept there. Foods on the MIND diet contain antioxidants that help fight against the oxidation. So think about it like an avocado. I use avocado because I like avocados a lot. So avocados, once they are exposed to oxygen, aka just left laying on the counter in the air, they start to experience browning. Okay. They go through a process of oxidation. That's exactly what's happening inside of your body or inside of your brain. The same concept goes with an apple. You leave an apple long enough on the countertop, you go to sleep, you wake up, that apple is going to brown. Again, that's just oxidation. Foods that contain antioxidants help to fight against that oxidation. That's why incorporating MIND diet foods, brain healthy foods are going to do that. Fruits and vegetables mainly are going to do that. Healthy fats, fibers are going to do that. This is why it's really important for us to understand what the MIND diet is and how it can be beneficial to promote antioxidant antioxidizing of the brain. Okay. So the brain is an extremely ravishly hungry organ in our bodies. Okay. If any of us have had children before, we know that children, once they go through puberty, they are hungry, they're eating all the time. Think of your brain being like in constant puberty. Okay. The brain is always eating. The brain's primary source of fuel is carbohydrates. So things that are like fruits, things that are whole grains, um, sugars in general, the brain loves these types of foods. So if you've ever heard of people that are on like the keto diet or that are on very low carbohydrates or things that don't contain a lot of carbohydrates on average, they may experience brain fog, low blood sugar. Maybe they can't think straight, they can't function straight. Specifically for athletes who do not eat carbohydrates, which is the primary source of fuel for the brain, their physical activity will be impaired. Same way for you, if you are physically active and you are not eating carbohydrates, your physical activity will be impaired. That's because the brain relies on carbohydrates, glucose, in order to keep it going. Now, a whole nother conversation can be had in regards to too much glucose and the negative effects that it has on the brain. But in general, everyone requires a healthy level of glucose from food in order to give their brain power and energy. Okay. Also, too, the brain is composed of a lot of fat. Okay. So, healthy fats that are found in foods like avocados, olive oil, nuts, seeds, and etc. really help to promote brain activity, help to promote hormones in the brain, and help to keep that brain as optimal as possible. Okay. So that's why we focus more on those omega-3 fatty acids. We need to release this whole notion of low fat everything because in the past, that was the belief that in order for you to be healthy, in order for you to live a thriving life, you need to lower your overall fat intake. And even though this can be true, that's only half of the truth. because we know now that there are many different types of fat. You have your saturated fats. Those are going to be a little bit more harmful to the brain. Those are the ones that are found in a lot of the fried fast food products, fatty cuts of meat, those saturated fats. But then you have the unsaturated fats, those that are found in plants, nuts, seeds, those that are found in olive oil, avocados, all these different healthier fats, and also fatty fish that is healthy, brain promoting, and helping to decrease the cognitive decline that we may experience as life goes on. So these are some important things, foundational things that I want you to understand when it comes to the mind diet. The brain needs food, the brain needs energy, and we can help the brain or harm the brain depending on how we're eating. So, the mind diet, if I were to give a clear-cut definition after describing what it is a healthy, evidence-based way to eat designed to help prevent Alzheimer's disease and delay cognitive decline. Okay. This is a selection of the most healthy brain foods, one smart diet from two healthy ones. And earlier, as I was describing the benefits of the Mediterranean and the DASH diets, that remember, they come together to form the mind diet. The Mediterranean and the DASH diet are known to be two heart healthy diets. Why? Because they help to promote healthier blood pressure, healthier cholesterol levels, decrease inflammation, improve blood flow all over the body. Now, these two heart healthy diets are now coming together to form a brain healthy diet. So we can safely say that there is a correlation between heart health and brain health. And there's a saying that we use quite often here that says, what's good for the heart, if it's good for the heart, it's good for the brain. Or if it's good for the brain, it's good for the heart. There's a direction there. And there's a correlation between the two because you have blood vessels that are going in and out of the heart, pumping blood to almost every organ in your body, including your brain. So imagine if you are somebody that is at risk or who currently has some form of heart disease in which blood is having a hard time making it to certain places in your body due to plaque buildup, inflammation, and etc. Well, over time, if the problem is like that when it comes to the heart, it'll only be a matter of time before it may impact the brain as well. Okay. That's why it is absolutely true that people who have heart disease, who are at higher risk of high cholesterol or who have high cholesterol or who have high blood pressure are almost automatically at increased risk for mild cognitive impairment and brain disease later on in life. Okay. What's good for the heart is good for the brain. What's good for the brain is good for the heart. So, overview of the mind diet, it emphasizes leafy greens. It incorporates whole grains and limits some of those refined grains. You know, the difference between the two is that your whole grains are going to contain a lot more nutrients and are minimally processed in comparison to those refined grains, the ones that taste so good that we love to eat, a lot of people, the ones that tend to have tons of added sugar and not as beneficial as our whole grains. The mind diet also emphasizes nuts, emphasizes berries, beans, olive oil, and in general, just an antioxidant rich and anti-inflammatory diet, okay, to help protect the heart and the brain and to prevent plaque buildup in our brain. Okay, very important. Again, it's an antioxidant rich diet to support our brain health. And what I love about the mind diet, you know, as a dietitian, I counsel many different people on a lot of different conditions, whether it's an athlete looking to gain weight and or whether it's somebody looking to lose weight. There are specific caloric regimens that people have to stay within in order to promote that goal that they're trying to achieve, specifically weight wise. But when it comes down to the mind diet, I like it because it doesn't really make us or require us to count calories. It doesn't require you to use a complicated food app or to track anything. It doesn't really give us any type of super prescriptive or ultra restrictive diet advice. It is everyday eating that is simple and that is mindful. Okay. That's what I like about the mind diet. Many of us have eaten a specific way our entire lives. And, in these classes that I have here at CEP, I'm working with people who have tons of experience, tons of education levels, and some grew up on a farm their entire lives, others grew up in the city their entire lives. Everybody's coming to the table to have this discussion about brain health from a different perspective and different place in life. And it eases that transition and eases those conversations when I tell them, like, hey, there are so many different things that the mind diet wants you to add rather than foods that you have to stop eating. Okay. And even though the mind diet does promote certain limitations on certain foods that are not going to be as healthy for the brain, like fatty cuts of red meat, fried fast food, butter stick, margarine, added sugars, and things like that, that we know naturally are inflammatory. The mind diet consists of a lot more foods for you to actually add into the diet. So some people may say, like, oh my goodness, with this mind diet, I have to stop eating all these things. But my response to them is, well, let's talk about the things that you could start eating. Let's talk about those foods that the mind diet is encouraging you to have. Okay. And that's what I want you to be aware of. So here are 10 basic brain foods. All right. This is a list of them. And as you're looking at this list, I want you to tell me which one of these are, or which one of these is the one that you eat the least amount of or consume the least amount of during the week. Again, wine is on there as number 9. I have my reservations on wine. The research has shown that very minimal amounts of red wine could be heart and brain protective, but the challenge is that people typically are not consuming the minimal amount that is recommended, which is less than 1 standard glass for women and less than 2 standard glasses for men. Okay, so yeah, tell me in the comments. I'm seeing some people comment, which one of these foods are you consuming the least amount of? Somebody says number 9. Yes, that's a great answer. I see berries in the comments, leafy greens and berries. Someone said wine and olive oil, poultry, fish, beans. I see beans a couple times. People are saying wine and olive oil. People are saying number 4, nuts. Nuts and seeds can be challenging for a lot of reasons. Leafy greens. So far, I feel like leafy greens and beans are some of the top leaders right now. Right. So thank you for engaging. And so continue to post that in the chat as you look at this list and really think about some of those foods that you are not consuming enough of. Now, the thing about it, the Mind Diet does recommend a certain amount per each one of these foods. Okay. For example, with the whole grains, the Mind Diet recommends a serving of at least 3 servings daily. That's the recommended servings for whole grains. Okay, it tells us that whole grains are foods that are like oats, buckwheat, things like quinoa, things like brown rice, whole grain bread, whole wheat bread, like whole grains in general that contain more nutrients and more fiber for us. What's cool about this is that the first 5 foods here, actually the first 6, are really high in dietary fiber. Okay. Whole grains, leafy greens, vegetables, nuts, berries, and beans. These right here are high fiber foods. And how many of us have heard of fiber? I mean, fiber is a very popular term that a lot of people use and may not understand what it is. If I were to explain fiber, I would explain fiber as Fiber, think of like a vacuum, okay? A vacuum that's pulling waste off of the floor. Okay, you consume fiber. Fiber is going to go into your body entirely non-digested, meaning that it doesn't undergo the same digestive processes, the same absorption that other foods may go to or go through. Foods like proteins or healthy fats, like those metabolize a different way than other foods like fiber. Fiber will go through your body entirely undigested and come out through your number two. Okay. So in that process, it's helping to promote healthy bowel movements, but also pulling out waste and toxins out of your body while also feeding the gut bacteria inside of your colon, which is correlated with improved or worsened health. The higher what we call biodiversity of your gut, the better your brain health can be. Okay. So that means if I'm eating more whole grains, more leafy greens, more vegetables, more nuts, more berries, I'm getting such a complex amount of fiber, such a complex amount of healthy gut bacteria that can help fight against sickness and disease, and that can also travel through the gut brain axis to my brain to promote the same health benefits that it's promoting inside of my body. Okay. The least or the less whole grains, leafy greens, vegetables, nuts, berries, beans that I'm consuming, I am having a lower amount of those healthy gut bacterias that can help to promote healthy body health and brain health as well. Okay. And the higher or more diverse my gut microbiome is, the better health outcomes I can have, whether that's heart health, decreasing diabetes risk, and also brain health as well. Okay. Now, that's the first six. Number 7 and 8, poultry and fish. These are foods that are going to give me a good amount of protein while also helping to limit the saturated fats that I consume. So the reason why the Mind Diet likes to emphasize poultry rather than red meat is because red meat is a higher source of saturated fats, while your poultry, like your eggs, chicken, turkey, and foods like that, are a lower or have a lower percentage or total amount of those saturated fats, which can be neuroprotective. Okay. Now, fish is an entire category of its own because it has those healthy omega-3 fatty acids that I talked about earlier. This is directly known to help improve our overall cholesterol levels, decreasing the inflammation that can build up in our blood vessels, which indirectly helps with our brain health, but also directly helps with our brain health too, because those healthy fats are a great precursor to a lot of great hormone production in our brains. Okay. So fish is a great option. Salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring. These are some great fishes that have great amounts of those healthy omega-3 fatty acids to promote our brain health. Okay. Olive oil is on this list. Actually, the Mind Diet recommends olive oil as our main oil. Okay. Here at CEP, we have 2 entire classes dedicated to olive oil. Sometimes I like to condense them, but we have 2 separate classes in which one of them we do a overall history of olive oil, the health benefits, and why you should incorporate them. And then the next one we do an olive oil tasting, in which we make a vinaigrette. Basically, in one of my classes, I make a vinaigrette with olive oil, with lemon, throw some herbs, spices, and seasonings in there, and you create your vinaigrette. Okay. And if you're looking to get started on that, here's how you do it: 2 units of olive oil, 1 unit of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Okay. You can also use other acids like red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar. You can use balsamic vinegar. Okay. All of these can combine with olive oil to create a great base for a dressing. And then you can throw some garlic powder, some herbs, spices to really give it some great flavor. Okay. So if you're looking for a healthier option for your salad dressings, or you're looking for something other than butter to dip your bread into, that can be a phenomenal option for you to help promote brain health. Okay. So these are our top 10 brain healthy foods. Okay. Now, you just told me some of the ones that you are eating less of or not enough of. Which ones are you actually eating? Post those in the comments for me. I want to know from you all, which ones are you actually consuming? Someone said salmon. Salmon is a pretty great staple here. Which ones are you consuming? Poultry, berries, olive oil, greens. Somebody said all except poultry and fish. Okay, so that indicates we are vegan in this case. I did as you're posting, so continue to post. The Mind Diet emphasizes berries specifically, not because other fruits are inherently unhealthy or wrong to consume, but berries have great fiber. They have a wonderful amount of antioxidants that can help promote brain health. And that's why the Mind Diet specifically pinpoints berries. Okay. They contain a special antioxidant called anthocyanins, and those are known to help fight inflammation extremely well, not only in our hearts, but also in our brains too. Okay. And as I'm reading, so I said fruit, salmon, greens, whole grain, pork. Pork is not on the Mind Diet. Specifically, it's a red meat, so it's going to have a higher percentage of saturated fat, which is why it's not on the Mind Diet. Okay. So, I mean, wonderful options, wonderful things that you all are posting that you are actually eating a lot of. Now that we've broken down the Mind Diet and understood the different components and the 10 top brain foods, I promise you we can have a whole class on each one of these, which is fascinating. What I want you to ask yourself is, you know, what can I do to improve my intake of at least one of these? Okay. This is probably the driving question of today. Okay. I want you to pick one of these foods from the basic brain foods list and incorporate it into a meal this week. Okay. And I want you to have that mindset when it comes to these foods on how can I just incorporate a little bit at a time? Right. Instead of saying, now Greg has shown me the top 10 related brain healthy foods, I'm going to cut everything out of my diet and create new meals that I've never had before using all of these foods that I might not enjoy because I've never done this before. Right. My challenge to you is just start with one. Start with the one that you're already consuming and maybe add something that you're not already consuming, either to that meal, a part of another meal, whichever way, as a snack, as a main dish, as a side, whatever you would like to do. Because the truth is, once you do that, that's going to open up the door for you to be intrigued about other things that you can add. That right there is going to open up the door for you to try other things too. And this can be your goal for the entire year. Your goal for the entire year is can say, I'm going to break this down into months. Maybe for the month of January, I'm going to focus on increasing or adding healthier whole grains into my diet. Maybe February, it's going to be about leafy greens. This is just one way to look at it, because by the end of the year, we've made it through a list of Mind Diet related foods that almost brought us to December. Okay. That's going to be my challenge to you. And as I'm asking you this question, my third question for you is, what food or what is the one food that you think you can add to your diet in order to promote a healthy and thriving brain? I am so curious to know what you all think. Somebody said increasing salads. I'd love to hear that. But what other things can you do to improve your brain health by adding one of these foods? Which one would it be? And maybe throw in an idea of what you think you can do with that one thing. I'll share one with you. I know for myself, beans is one that I can eat more of. And what's cool about beans is that beans contain a high amount of fiber, a high amount of protein, and those two right there are exceptional, especially as we age and things start happening to us. Our bodies start to slow down. Beans are giving us good protein and good fiber to help promote fullness and really give us a great meal. So I know for myself, beans is one that I can add more of. How can I add it? I can add it to chilies. I can add it to tacos, right? If I'm using a ground turkey, I can add some beans in there to give it some additional fiber while decreasing the amount of some of the animal protein that I'm consuming in that case, right? I can add it to salads. I can consider them as snacks. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can do there, okay? So that's mine. And I want you to continue to think about yours. Somebody said using beans in salads. Somebody said berries, smoothies, whole grains. Somebody said try to eat avocados. So I think these are all great things, and that's what I want you to think about as we wrap up today. Um, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I would love to know if we have some questions out there so that I can answer those.